Hello, my comic book friends. The Sleepy Reader in a self-indulgent mood. So you may indulge me or move on to another video as I kind of page through the very first comic book I ever read. I'm not sure how old I was. 8 or 9, I believe. Possibly even 10. I'm not sure. I had to beg my parents to buy this comic. I think I was very lucky. This was the 1 month that Marvel did these oversized 25-cent comics for all their comic books. So not only did I get a Roy Thomas, Neil Adams Avengers comic, arguably one of Neil Adams' very best Marvel works, I think, but it was extra long. And part of the beginning of a very exciting little saga in Marvel, the Kree-Skrull War, or sometimes this issue is viewed as the beginning. But it started with a kind of take on the Fantastic Voyage, the movie where Raquel Welch and others traveled inside a human body to remove some kind of problem from his brain. So here we have the android, the Vision, with some kind of problem inside of him, and who would show up but Hank Pym, Ant-Man, no longer an Avenger, but ready to lend a hand and delve deep into, personally go into the body of the android and find out what's wrong. It's called A Journey to the Center of the Android. So this was kind of half of the book, but just look. This is just one of Neil Adams' really incredible sequences, where Ant-Man goes in and basically has to battle various sort of artificial defenses inside of the Vision's body, and along the way encounters these bubbles that are the source of the Vision's intangibility, and then in fleeing these antibodies of his, he uses that intangibility to escape. Just lots of clever sequences, fantastic storytelling. I think what some people, Neil Adams has had so many imitators, but I feel like what a lot of his imitators have missed is his storytelling ability and storytelling creativity. He brought this new level of realism to comic books at the time, to superhero comics at the time. But on top of that, he just brought incredible storytelling chops. And perhaps, great storytelling chops were kind of a requirement of the job back then, more than great or beautiful artwork or realistic artwork, and he brought both. So we had that really nice sequence, and then the Vision wakes up, Ant-Man goes off to do whatever he does without the Avengers, and the Vision tells his story, which involves kind of the betrayal of the other Avengers, of these younger Avengers, and them going off and being zapped by 3 cows. And if you really know your deep Marvel history, in a very early issue of the Fantastic Four, 3 Skrulls who were imitating the Fantastic Four get somehow hypnotized or convinced that they're cows, and they shape change into cows and they stay there. But now they reappear as the Fantastic Four, and manage to surprise and defeat the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And then we flash to Captain Marvel. So we've got all these superheroes, all these threads of this story, and it's no wonder to me that I got so caught up in this and read and reread it so much, although I think I would have with any superhero comic book of the time. But But this is just an incredible comic book, I think, of any time. And then we get this battle. We get Captain Marvel on the top half of the page, having his little adventure inside the spaceship, and then through the view screens of the spaceship, we see the Avengers battling the Fantastic Four Skrulls. And it climaxes with Goliath grabbing onto the spaceship that's taking off and trying to punch his way through. But his growth formula runs out and he shrinks back down. And he feels like a terrible excuse for a superhero. Which is all foreshadowing for the fact that this is Clint Barton, actually, this version of Goliath, that he's going to go back and become an archer again. But that happens, 4 or 5 issues from now. So this is the only comic book I read for probably 6 months. And it proved to probably be a great entry into Marvel Comics for me, with so many characters, such a sense of different things going on and different adventures in the past. I can't even remember how Rick Jones happens to be in all this, but wherever Captain Marvel is, Rick Jones is not far away. So yeah, I don't know why. I own 3 different versions of this. I own it in this oversized hardback, which is obviously now my favorite version. I have a digital copy of it, and I have, from sometime in the mid-'80s, an early Baxter paper reprint of the key issues of the Kree-Skrull War. And I seem to have been reluctant to just seek out the original issue, which I shouldn't be, because I probably would enjoy relooking at all the ads and the editorial material, the bullpen bulletins and the letters page, because I know I must have pored over those too. So anybody who likes Bronze Age and Silver Age Marvel definitely should check out the Kree-Skrull War. And it's obviously not the very first big adventure in Marvel, because I think, for instance, Thor was having pretty long cosmic adventures earlier on, but it's definitely one of the major ones. And of course, no comic book readers at the time knew they were even reading the Kree-Skrull War. It doesn't say that anywhere. I don't know if it gets referenced as the Kree-Skrull War in later issues. As we go on, we get a series of issues back and forth between drawn by Neil Adams and drawn by Sal Buscema, and written by the often undervalued Roy Thomas. So, yeah, this is a great book to have. I think it's just now come out in trade paperback, or, as I said, there's many other versions of it. I do think no matter what comic book I got, I would have been in love with it. I mean, my second comic book was a rather humdrum issue of Captain America. Humdrum to me now when I look back on it. And my third one was a pretty good issue of Conan, the first one drawn by John Buscema. So, yeah, I'm just enjoying looking back at this. Neil Adams was incredible. I mean, I think I take it for granted at times how good he was. And to think that he was putting so much work into it at a time when no one expected to be reprinted, no one expected much money or much in the way of accolades, although I think he obviously cared and was kind of showing the other artists maybe what he could do, and then other artists would try to step up and live up to what he was doing. People like the ones who weren't just in it for a career, like Jim Steranko and the likes of that. And of course, very quickly, Adams spawned all these imitators. and not imitators because they were crass commercial guys just trying to jump on the bandwagon. I think imitators because people fell in love with Neal Adams' artwork. And, you know, I immediately think of Mike Grell, one of the early ones, whose artwork looked a lot like Neal Adams, but he achieved quite a good career of his own. And there's many more. I mean, even right now, when I look at Ivan Rice, I see a pretty successful take on the Neal Adams way of doing things. And of course, when I first saw John Byrne, I saw, even John Byrne, who is not entirely like this, I saw a melding of Adams and Jack Kirby. And the interesting thing to me is comics done by Neal Adams at the same time, you know, in the same time frame as comics done by Jack Kirby are more valuable, harder to get a hold of. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe just because there are so many Jack Kirby comics and the number of Neal Adams comics is limited. Okay, guys, thanks for indulging me. I will be back again soon, maybe tomorrow, with my next daily vlog. I have to admit I was thinking I would have more profound things to say about this issue than I did, but still had fun looking at it. Talk to you later.